In April 1862, Union forces captured New Orleans from the Confederacy. In control of the garrison here was a political soldier named Benjamin Butler. He was from Massachusetts. Now, he didn't have that much military experience. Actually, he had basically no military experience before the Civil War, but he was a really effective administrator, and he'd need to bring all of his skills to bear to maintain order in this troubled city. On May the 1st, Butler got off of the boat by the levee and moved into this mansion in the Garden District right behind me, and he had some trouble on his hands. The people of New Orleans did not want to be ruled. The white population in particular was openly hostile toward the invading Yankees. So the women of New Orleans, specifically the rich white women, with all the men going off fighting in the war, decided to take it upon themselves to disrupt and mock and belittle Union soldiers as much as possible. They made it a habit to hurl insults at them in the street, to loudly sing Confederate songs when they were within earshot. They would go out of their houses to laugh at Union military funerals as they processed by, and they also emptied their chamber pots over their balconies whenever Union soldiers happened to be passing below. Yes, if you were a Union soldier in occupied New Orleans and you were patrolling through the streets, there stood a very real possibility that you would get pea dumped on your head at any moment. But the Union soldiers dealt with this abuse with remarkable restraint. I mean, here's the thing. In the 19th century, it was considered incredibly taboo to, berate or discipline a well-to-do lady for any reason. It was a huge taboo. So when, they would get pea dumped on their heads and these ladies would just say, "Oh my goodness, my poor northern boys, I just did not see you down there." These Yankees would just have to go, "It's all right, ma'am," with pea dripping from their kepis and whatnot, and just go about their day. Butler had a problem with this. Yes, General Butler did not like this at all. And these women actually it wasn't just an insult, these women posed a serious threat to him. Because if the people of New Orleans didn't respect the Union occupiers, then how could they possibly maintain law and order? So just 2 weeks after he got off the boat and took the post of military governor of New Orleans, Butler issued the infamous General Order Number 28, which read, "As the officers and soldiers of the United States have been subject to repeated insults from the women, calling themselves ladies, sick burn, of New Orleans, in return for the most scrupulous non-interference and courtesy on our part, it is ordered that hereafter, when any female shall, by word, gesture, or movement, insult or show contempt for any officer or soldier of the U.S., she shall be regarded and held liable to be treated as a woman of the town plying her avocation." So as you can imagine, this did not go over well. Not just here in New Orleans, not just in the South, not just in the United States, but all around the world. People were outraged by this because it basically shattered every, common law of Victorian gender norms, basically, and conduct. So even in England, in the British House of Lords, there were protests and denouncements of Butler. Jefferson Davis was so angry that he issued a proclamation of his own, which said that not only was Benjamin Butler an enemy of the Confederate States as a combatant against them, but that he was an enemy against mankind, and that if he was captured, the officer in charge of the capturing party would have to execute him by hanging on the spot. Whoa, that's intense. Not to be outdone, the ladies of New Orleans started printing Butler's image on the bottom of their chamber pots so they could literally piss on his face. I happen to have just such a chamber pot. I got this at the Confederate Memorial Hall here in New Orleans. Yeah, I know. Don't judge me too hard. But there he is. There's Butler, right at the bottom. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is this just a souvenir item of historical significance, or do I use it on the reg? In other words, have I peed on Benjamin Butler's face? Well, I can neither confirm nor deny these heinous allegations. But Benjamin Butler, or the Beast as he became known, escaped justice. He was involved in all sorts of controversies here in New Orleans, even after the Woman Order. He caused a minor diplomatic crisis in December of 1862 when he demanded that every foreigner in the city swear an oath of allegiance to the Union. So after that, Lincoln was like, "All right, man, come back to Washington. We're going to put somebody in New Orleans who is a little bit less intense about things." And that ended up being Nathaniel P. Banks. And he was also from Massachusetts, and that's a whole different video in of itself. But after the war, Butler had, a pretty solid career as a politician. He was a senator, and then he was governor of Massachusetts for a little while. Lived up in Gloucester, at a very, very nice house over on the beach there. But was the woman order actually effective? Well, yes and no, kind of, but it probably wasn't worth the controversy and just the hullabaloo that it caused. It seems that the text of the order, the woman of the town plying her avocation pit, that wasn't taken literally. Most of the women who persisted in disrespecting Union soldiers were imprisoned in Ship Island in the Gulf of Mexico. So, a pretty horrible punishment. But I think there is another aspect of Benjamin Butler's order that maybe doesn't get talked about enough. So, pretty recently, I went to talk to a high school history class here in New Orleans, and I told them about the woman order and about Benjamin the Beast Butler. And this young lady raised her hand in the class and said, "Do you know if this ever happened? Did a Union soldier ever think that he was being disrespected, and even though he wasn't, and the lady got punished anyway?" That's actually a really great question. And yeah, it probably did happen. Probably happened multiple times. Knowing men in the past, especially during wartime, yeah, I think it's pretty safe to assume that injustices like that did happen. And that's a sobering thought. Anyway, I'd like to extend a very special thank you to my generous patron, Evan Jennis. As he is of the Stonewall Brigade, he gets a shout out of his choice in one video a month. And he is actually helping me get this new composer on board for my YouTube channel. It's a very famous Venezuelan composer. His name is Juan Anatu. And hopefully he'll be a great addition to the team. And Evan assures me that Juan Anatu is real and very real and a great composer. So Juan Anatu, and a Juan Anatu. Hey, motherfucker!